Joined by Jason Ehrlich of Genentech. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm interested in first catching up on Genentech's pipeline. What do you have in the early stage and the mid stage that we'd be looking forward to at future OISs?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with what some of the things we've brought forward to patients recently, and then we can talk about both the early and the mid stage.
Sure. Let's go there.
So 2017 has been a big year for ophthalmology at Genentech. At the beginning of the year, we saw new approvals for Lucentis for myopic choroidal neovascularization in people with very nearsighted who get CNV, and then also a new approval in diabetic retinopathy for all forms of diabetic retinopathy with or without macular edema. That's really exciting for patients. And then Lucentis also launched in a prefilled syringe, which makes it more convenient for the physician and their staff to administer the product. So those are some innovations that we're bringing forward on Lucentis. And then we had two new approvals that I just wanted to highlight for some of our medicines that have a big impact on ophthalmology patients, but are not necessarily something that the retina specialist might be giving. So we have a new approval for Actemra in giant cell arteritis. So that's an autoimmune disease that can cause sudden loss of vision. And this is the first new approval for that disease in 50 years.
Wow.
So it was approved earlier this year under the FDA's Breakthrough Designation Program, so we're really excited about that. And then Ocrevus, which is a new drug that Genentech launched this year for multiple sclerosis. It's having a big impact in MS. And a lot of patients with multiple sclerosis who are ultimately diagnosed with MS first present to an ophthalmologist with optic neuritis. Oh. So when we think about what we're doing at Genentech to impact patients with vision-threatening disease, it's not just retina anymore, and so we're really excited about how we're branching out. Then in retina, in the mid-stage pipeline, we have 3 phase 2 programs with the VEGF-Ang2 bispecific antibody. It's a really unique new antibody, binds 2 different targets, does so in unique ways, and it's uniquely designed and engineered for use in the eye. So we're really excited about that. 2 phase 2 programs in wet AMD, 1 phase 2 program in diabetic macular edema, diabetic eye disease that'll be reading out in the coming months. So we're optimistic about that, and if those data look good, we'll bring that into phase 3 in short order. And then we, earlier this year, we acquired a company, Foresight Vision 4,
sure.
Which is a drug delivery company that we've collaborated with for many years. But we like the technology a lot as a platform for delivering drugs for the retina and for the eye. So we acquired that company. The phase 2 program for the port delivery system with Lucentis finished enrollment of the phase 2 earlier this year, so we'll look forward to the data next year. We're really excited about the possibility that could offer a much longer duration of action between treatments than what you can get with current intravitreal anti-VEGFs. So we're optimistic about that. And then earlier on in the pipeline, we have 2 new phase 1 programs with novel molecular entities, new mechanisms of action, both in geographic atrophy due to AMD and in glaucoma. So our areas of interest in ophthalmology continue to expand, not just retinal disease, but front of the eye diseases as well.
How much of the innovation going forward do you think will be on different ways of delivering drugs as opposed to finding new drugs?
Yeah, I think we need both, right? If you think about the short to midterm, one of the biggest challenges that we see for patients is optimizing patient outcomes. We have very good therapies, but not all patients get them enough. The outcomes in the real world aren't as good as they could be. So drug delivery may help really address a lot of those problems. It's not just more convenient, but the outcomes will be better with extended delivery technologies for the eye, both for the front of the eye, I think, and also for the back of the eye. Over the longer term, I think we need, the whole community needs to continue to invest in more targets, additional potential drugs for all of these diseases. And we're continuing to do a lot of that work at Genentech. So one program I didn't touch on was lampalizumab, which is our big phase 3 program in geographic atrophy due to AMD. We announced earlier in September that the first of those phase 3 studies was unsuccessful, which was really disappointing. But one of the important things that we'll do with those data is that we'll have close to 2,000 patients data for several years, patients with geographic atrophy, and we've got a very rich imaging data set. We've got genetic data on many of those patients, the vast majority of them. So that type of information could really if we're smart about how we look at those data, we can take that back to our early research colleagues, see what they can learn to try to make new drugs based on that information. So that sort of virtuous cycle will continue.
So looking ahead of the next 10 years, how do you see the landscape of ophthalmology treatments?
Yeah.
What does it look like in 10 years?
So I think there's going to be continued innovation in the drugs themselves, new targets, new molecules. There's going to be a tremendous innovation in drug delivery. People have been investing very heavily in that area for retinal drug delivery for the last decade. We've had a lot of efforts in that area ourselves. I see a lot of the things that are happening externally from other companies outside of ours, and I'm really optimistic that several of those will work. So that will really transform outcomes. And then I think there's the whole, the rest of the environment that's changing around healthcare delivery, the use of tools on smartphones, for instance, other home-based tools for monitoring patients' vision, just like we're doing heart rate monitoring with your Apple Watch. There's going to be more things like that will affect ophthalmology patients, and ultimately that'll result in earlier diagnosis, sort of customized individual treatment, and the best outcomes for patients. So I think we're really at the cusp of that, which is really exciting.
That's come up quite a few times. It'd be ironic, I guess, if the smartphones that ended up helping our vision as opposed to drying out our eyes.
I think that it's going to do both.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.